Well, guys, great to see you back at Somerset Park after such a long time away. How does it feel to be back, and what are your favourite memories from this place?
Well, my favourite memory is I can remember when there was a load of Rangers fans sitting round the Ash track, and I think we literally humiliated them on the pitch to the extent the fans were tying knots into their scarves and throwing them onto the pitch.
That's showing something if you're getting Rangers fans to throw something onto the pitch. It shows how good they were at that time.
Well, I mean, the Rangers had a great team, and when you go on, you know, you're either going to have an on day or an off day. We had an on day. They certainly didn't have an on day. It was an off day for them.
And for the supporters that might not recognise you guys, what is your relationship to Ayr United? Start with Sammy first of all. Yeah.
I'm just an ex-player. That's
and
all
coach.
I was. And then coach with what do you call him?
Ali McLeod.
Yourself, Louis, obviously referee, I believe.
Yes, I was a referee for 25 years and a referee at Somerset Park. I never ever refereed Ayr United in a league game, but I had a few experiences with, I always seemed to get an Ayrshire Cup final, and I had a few experiences with Ayr United Kilmarnock games. But I also remember refereeing schoolboy cup finals in here, and that's where you learnt from your mistakes in schoolboys cup finals, because they accepted decisions more. But I also, until I took up refereeing, followed Ayr United with my father being an ex-chairman. And I remember the game that Dick was talking about, when 25,255 people were there. I and my family were
played in
that game. And I remember Wally Jack scoring a goal down there when they beat them 1-0. I was a 12-year-old.
I was trying to catch him to congratulate him. I couldn't get
So
near him.
I've got plenty of memories of Ayr United, of Somerset Park from a long, long while ago, and even present. And I've thoroughly enjoyed my seasons.
And then for yourself, Neil, what are your memories of Ayr United?
Well, basically, I was just a young boy that came into the team. Ali signed me as an 18-year-old and put me junior, and I was more known as a super sub. I came on a couple of times. The first game I came on against Morton, we did 1-0 and I scored the goal.
Impact player.
Impact player, yeah.
Impact player.
So no, that's what I remember. But I remember the game against Rangers, beat them 2-1. I'll never forget it. Cut a young run round here, cut inside and hit this wonderful left foot shot into the top corner. Best goal I've seen all that year. So that's a memory there. But my biggest memory was I worked in Kilmarnock, and it was Kilmarnock, Ayr versus Kilmarnock here, 20-odd thousand all around the park. We beat them 3-2 on New Year's Day, and that's one I always remember because I scored the third goal. I'll never forget it.
I don't think the Ayr fans would let you forget that one.
Well, the Kilmarnock fans still didn't.
No, exactly. And you mentioned the big crowds that we used to get here at Somerset, obviously against Kilmarnock and Rangers, Old Firm Club, Celtic as well. So what was it actually like to I mean, obviously for yourself, Louis, refereeing, but for you guys playing in front of, 20,000 in these packed out, it must have been some atmosphere.
Well, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
it makes you lift you up.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
It's better than playing 20,200.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, but
Because you get the actual motivation to do well. And Ali was a great motivator. And so was this guy here. He was a bit crabbit right enough. He was a bit crabbit with you, but he was a good motivator. Justified.
from a referee's point of view, Lee, you obviously mentioned you're refereeing Ayr Kilmarnock derbies. How fierce is that game when you're actually in amongst it and you're observing the challenges that are going on?
It was all right until somebody scored a goal. And then after that, things really did get tough. I mean, there were two instances in games in which I was involved. One of them was at Rugby Park, where I had misfortune or fortune, depending which way you want to look at it. No doubt it'll be a fortune, where I sent off 3 Kilmarnock players in the one match. And it was a rather scary experience after the game, where Walter McRae, who was secretary, manager and everything at Kilmarnock, was one of the 2 sergeant majors whom I met in football. He just came in and asked me if I would kindly remove myself from the stadium as soon as possible. And I asked him why was that. Was the crowd are waiting for you outside. There was about 3,000 or 4,000 waiting outside. And then there was another game in which I refereed here, where the hand of David came into vogue. It was one each, and there was about 3 minutes of the game to go, and that end down at the railway end was full of Kilmarnock supporters. And David Kennedy punched the ball over the bar. So I mean, it was a straightforward penalty kick to Kilmarnock, and there was no debate even from the United fans and their players. And I said to David, the game, you do that next year, David. I says, it's a straight red card. I said, well, what? I says, no, you're just staying on this time. So the Ayr United goalkeeper scored, and I had kind of stalled my time. I wasn't too quick in getting the penalty kick taken because I was time wasting. And the goalkeeper saved it, and Ayr United went up the park and got the winner with a minute to go. And virtually as soon as the 90 minutes had passed, Louis blew the final whistle just to get off the park. So those are the kind of two games. But there was always a rivalry between them. And it doesn't matter which local derby you referee, no matter where you go in the country, there is always rivalry.
Brilliant. And we've mentioned Ali McLeod over the course of this interview so far, and we've heard from the likes of Jerry Phillips and Ali McLean that Ali was a great man manager, not the most tactical, but some great stories. I must say. I guess you guys will have your own stories to tell.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it wasn't particularly a great tactician, but tactics. If someone says they got the tactics wrong, it means that the team played SH1T. That's all it means. I mean, if you're on your game, the tactics are right. I don't think you can play any. You can play a system, and you play to the system. That's it. I mean, there's a load of rubbish ranted about tactics. What tactics? If someone's getting away with murder, you get closer to him, closer to your man, pick him up so that he cannot get the freedom to do what he wants to do. Yeah. I mean, that's basic stuff.
Do you guys feel that if you played nowadays, you maybe find it a little bit more difficult when you're getting fired by all these different tactics, whereas back then you kind of all knew your jobs and it was more simplified?
Well, yeah, I mean, football's a simple game. Beat someone, create a space and pass it to someone in the space. I mean, that's it. There's nothing else you can do. Yeah. No matter what way you can play a 5-3-2 or whatever you want to play. But that's what the name of the game is. Oops.
The ball's about to clatter one of our heads here.
We played a 4-2-4. When it's almost it. We played a 4 across the back, 2 in midfield and 4 up front. Cutty wide and Bobby Roth. And basically getting shoot through the middle. Jackie Ferguson supporting Alec Ingram, who was my mentor, by the way. Alec Ingram used to show me how.
It's not a bad mentor to have there, to be fair.
If you want to go left, you just go whack, and when I go that way, so that was basically what Alec Ingram taught me as a young boy, which I'll never forget.
And in terms of just general your football careers, and for Louis yourself refereeing, what's your favourite memory and maybe your biggest achievement? Obviously Dick, FA Cup final must be up there.
Yeah, it was a brilliant. I mean, the atmosphere was unbelievable because the hotel we were stopping in for the week was in Croydon. It was the Croydon Golf and Country Club, and when we left on the Saturday, everywhere we went was filled with red and white scarves because everyone outside of Leeds wanted Sunderland to win. So it was red and white everywhere, and then when you ran onto the pitch, 3/4 of the stadium was red and white, and it was a fantastic. And to be honest, I've never needed to buy another drink since we won it.
You couldn't have afforded to lose that one if half the stadium was red and white, though, could you?
Unfortunately, it's soft drinks for me, but it's everywhere we go. I mean, the fans there are brilliant. The fans here, that was one thing about this club. I thought the fans were different class. And then to play in front of the Rangers fans when we used to play there, they were horrible. They were horrible. And I mean, they're different now probably, but then, and I can remember when Sam would be playing, we played Rangers at Ibrox and Colin Steen dived and punched the ball in the net. Can you remember that?
I can remember that.
With his fist. And the referee, everyone in the crowd was laughing, and the referee went away, ran down the pitch, gave the goal. I mean, it was, you were up against something more than the team when you were playing against Rangers. So our win here was a brilliant achievement.
And in terms of your biggest achievement, Neil, what would you say that would be?
Well, I won 2 league championships with Clyde. I was both top goal scorer both seasons, and that was the most impressive. That was my enjoyable season. Was 77, 78. Played for Clyde, won the league. Craig Brown was the manager, and 2 years later won it again in 81, 82. And luckily I was top goal scorer both seasons. But those were most memorable seasons. Memorable games, playing Rangers at Shawfield, we drew 2 each, and we were winning 2-1 with 5 minutes to go. Similar to what Dick was saying there, Derek Johnson volleyed this thing against the centre half. The centre half standing there, hit his arm. The referee gave a penalty, so we got a replay, and they beat us 2-0 in the replay. How can a man get out of the way? He's only 5 yards away, he volleyed it first time. But that was most memorable games, yeah.
That brings us nicely on to my next question. In terms of, obviously, Louis from a referee's point of view and you guys as a player, what do you make of modern day football in terms of, you know, your likes of VAR and your rules about the handball? Because it's so confusing, I can't seem to get to grips of what actually is handball by the letter of the law, as they say.
That's a very good question. I ask myself that as well. I am of the old school. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, how can a player, his hand might be here, hands might be here, how can a player when the ball's hit 3 yards from him get it out of the way?
If it's coming with pace, you can't.
I quite agree with you, Sam, I quite agree with you. I mean, there were 2 games at the end of last season where I thought VAR destroyed it. One was the FA Cup final when Man United, you know, got a penalty kick and the ball came across. And it was the same with West County and Partick Thistle. It was a similar type of free kick. And that changed the whole complex of that game. Partick are still in the Championship and West County are still in the Premier League. It's very difficult with handball, and you just, I cheat slightly from the point of view of trying to educate the young referees. If you're refereeing anything from, if you're refereeing senior football, i.e. from the second division up, if it's a handball, you've got to judge it. Whereas when you're refereeing in the public park and you're on your own, give it. Now, it's 2 different ways of refereeing, but when you're on your own, you've got to make sure it's a battle of surviving. It's a survival. But they've tinkered with the laws too much with that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll start with, the refereeing standard in England is crap, excuse the terminology, but they're poor. And the VAR was supposed to be brought in so that it makes tough decisions away from them. But they don't even get that right, you know. And as the lads have said, with hitting the hand when it's, I mean, when you're sliding in and you'd use your arms for balance.
Of course, yeah.
And jumping, you're doing that as well.
And the ball comes up, hits you in the, well, gee whiz. If a referee, listen, I could.
We're talking about it at the moment. For all we know, this afternoon something like this could happen. You know,
but VAR, I think, was the important decisions to support the referee. If they really got it wrong or got it right, it actually supported them. And I think that's where it was. I think VAR, I don't like VAR myself. That was probably because of the type of player I was, but I didn't like VAR.
Well, if it gives you the right decision, then it's okay.
That's right.
But it alienates a lot of the.
In my opinion, you can blame your Linekers, your Shearers, your McMillan's, Suttons. They're the ones who wanted it all brought in because they do not like and they detest referees.
And now they're actually wanting not to. They want it stopped now. Now it's in. They want to stop it now.
I'm not. But it's going to be a debate. We're just going to have to accept the fact that it's here.
Right, guys, it's been brilliant to speak to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
How much money did we get for this?